Peter's Box. Life is for the living.
Hi everyone, my name is Elizabeth Zionita Ofori, the author of Concentric Circles, 30 Rich Life Lessons of a Resilient African Child. This is my very first book published, hopefully many more to come. And I'm excited to have this conversation.
Great. Zionita.
Yes.
Is that your real name?
Yes, it's as real as I can get.
Your parents named you Zionita?
No, but it's real. Doesn't make it any less real.
What does that name mean to you?
It means so much. It's a name that is inspired by one of my favorite scriptures in the Bible that you find from Hebrews 12:22 to 24. You can read it for yourself, but it's a scripture that really keeps me, especially in my very darkest times.
Okay, awesome. When did you first realize you wanted to be an author?
I don't think I ever realized I wanted to be an author.
Okay.
I saw the thing. Yeah, I never sat down one day and said I wanted to be an author, but I was going through a certain journey, and for a long time in my life, many years, people keep telling me, you've got to write a book. You speak so well and blah, blah, blah. I'm like, I hate writing. Fun fact, I hate writing. So I didn't think I was gonna be an author, but there was a point in my life where I realized that there was so much in me and the Holy Spirit kept beckoning on me, start to put them out. Start to put them out. So I wrote this book actually in 5 weeks.
5 weeks?
Yes, the manuscript was ready in 5 weeks. Every week I'll write 6 hours. Every single week, 6 hours until it was done. And then it had to go through many iterations for about 6 months before it was launched later after that.
Okay, great. Now the title of your book is Concentric Circles, 30 Rich Life Lessons of a Resilient African Child. Why that title? Concentric Circles is almost something mathematical, abstract. Why did you go for that title?
So I had the opportunity to be on a mentoring program by one of the most amazing, prominent women leaders, public sector leaders in this country. And the first assignment in that program, I don't have permission, so I can't divulge what that program is, but the first assignment there was to tell our stories in a picture. And I'm like, picture. What am I gonna paint? Yeah. So as I mulled over the assignment, and then it started to come to me like concentric circles, because really one of the things that was starting to come to me was how every bit of my life, and that's the life of most people, it's part of a bigger picture. We never see the bigger picture until maybe we are in a waiting room waiting for judgment. But we never see it, but it's all full. The good, the bad, the beautiful, the extraordinary, the ugly, it's all part of it, and it's full. It's not any less full because you had a bad day or a bad period or a bad timeline. It's still a full life. So Concentric Circles just depicts that. You see, the circles are all different shapes, some are like, but it's still a circle, and it is in an increasing measure. So there's a start point and different experiences. That's why it's concentric, that ripple effect of different experiences that still adds to your full circle. Nothing changes. So that is the picture I drew. It wasn't this design was by Selassie, but I did concentric circles, and there were scriptures for each space in there that I thought spoke about my life. And that was what I did for the assignment. So when I started to write this manuscript, the Holy Spirit drew my attention back to that, and through people around me, like, concentric circles. I'm like, yeah, that's a perfect title, so that's how it came about.
Something came into mind when you mentioned that this was not the original design. You actually designed something with some scriptures in there, and now the final product we have now has a different design. I want to ask this question: how important is book design to you as an author, or in authoring a book? What makes book design an important thing? Because I realize that you gave way for someone to actually do the design for you.
Absolutely, it's critical, because a lot of the time we say don't judge a book by its cover.
Yeah.
But you should be able to judge a book by its cover, because whether you like it or not, people see the cover first. It's human nature. We are always going to see the outward first. So the way you're dressed, the way you're speaking, that is what people see first before they get to know you and realize that, oh, this person is really nice or this person is really arrogant.
Yeah.
You get it. So whether you like it or not, the cover matters. And for me, it was critical for that to align with what was inside. I didn't want to just do a cover. I didn't want to blast my face there, because this book is not about me. To be honest, while it's highlights of certain life experiences, it's more about my readers and sharing the experience where you know that you are not alone in certain things. And this is how I navigated something that you might be going through. And this is the lesson I learned from it. Maybe help somebody skip that process or skip that step or not go into a certain dark place because they read my book. So whilst it's a story about, it's not a story about my life, because my life will not be contained in a book. Nobody's life can ever be. But it's just highlights of it. And so I wanted something that really depicted the message and essence of the book.
Okay, what is the message of the book?
The message of the book is hope.
Hope.
And power.
Power.
And love.
Hope, power, love. That almost sounded like EPL. Apart from the
you know, it's really important for us to understand that when people have lost hope, that's when they kill themselves. When you can't see a way out, that's when you end it. Because you can't see beyond your nose. That's when they end it. But when you give a person hope, you've just given them a lifeline. And I want that. So my story is not a pity story. Like, yeah, there were some very terrible things. Some of them I just didn't write it because some things have to go with you to the grave. But there were some I highlighted for you to understand that sometimes when you're in the deepest pit, you don't see before, but keep moving. There's definitely a beautiful ground coming up, and it's going to be a high ground, and it's going to be a beautiful lush land. Don't give up. And use the resources around you. Because I always say that I am not self-made. Peter, I am not self-made. God has brought people my way in many, many ways that have opened doors for me that without them, if they are not answered to God's prompting in them to open those doors, whether they know it or not. Some of them are no longer in my life, but they came to play their role and they left. Some are still here because they are supposed to still be here. So I just want people to be aware of it, that we are not always in control. I used to have terrible OCD. I want to still control things. Some of these experiences, writing this book, was healing for me. To understand that I am not in control. There's a bigger being in control. And while I have a part to play, I have to have the wisdom to understand that there are aspects of it that is not my part to play. And I have to leave it to the person who is part it is to play that part. And I have to learn to accept help. Because sometimes when you're in such, and people have wronged you so much as a child, it's hard to trust anything. And you miss a lot of blessings because of that.
Good. On your first word, hope, this book is about hope because you have been through that experience and you also want to share that hope because you came out of it, if I can put it that way, because I've read the book and I actually relate with the book because we all have unique experiences that we all hope we can come out of. So I do understand that. But what I want to find out is, how were you able to get out of that hopeless situation? And I'm asking this for the benefit of someone who might probably read your story and say, oh, you're a lucky girl. You are fortunate that you have this person coming away. Where I am, I'm not having anyone come my way. How would you relate your message still to this person who is still in that abyss and is not able to see the light at the end of the tunnel.
I was in that abyss too, and I didn't think that I was lucky. And I am not a lucky person, I am blessed. And there's this song that I'm starting to learn, and it said, on my good days, I'm a child of God, and on my bad days, I'm still a child of God. So, usually when you are in the rut, it doesn't look like it's working together for your good, but it is, because we are human. We judge good by what we see. Good and bad are so separate. But I'm a Christian, so I like to make references to scriptures. In Genesis, when God put them in the garden, and what? The tree of the knowledge of good and evil was one tree. You know, when you're growing up in Sunday school, make it look like there was a bad tree and there was a good tree, and then they ate the bad tree and the good tree. No. The Bible said in the midst of the garden was the tree of the knowledge of good and evil. It was one tree. The same thing. So good and evil actually might be the same thing depending on where you are. So to someone out there who is in that other phase that is not pretty good, hang in there. You're not going to just be lucky. You're going to be marvelously blessed, and you will be surprised. I'm not out of it yet. If I tell you what I'm dealing with now, you will be surprised. Why are you still smiling? Why are you still up? Sometimes I just want to crawl into some place and escape it. Right now, I'm not telling you. Right now, sometimes I tell my boss, I'm like, I want to call someone and just switch everything off and just vanish. Then she would say, I know, and it's okay. So it's okay. Good days will come.
It's very bold of you to tell your story, not only to yourself but to other people. This is a personal story, it's a memoir of your life experiences. How do you feel about telling your personal story to the public?
I think that takes me back to your first question, when I decided to be an author, because I never did. I never thought I would tell a bit of my story, because it's not all of my story. My story is still being written. But I think when you're led by the Holy Spirit, you've got to respond to that prompting inside, because I recognize that it's easier when there's community, when there's relation. One of the lessons that have come out of this book is hearing people come back to me and say, Z, wow, I can so relate. Wow, oh, you're my sister. Do you understand? It's not because they're saying that, but the fact that they can see that they are not alone. So if it means telling this, and how you tell the story is important, because this same story, I could have spin it around and make it look really ugly, as it really is.
Yes, I was hoping to see that all along, because in the book, at least from the reviews and the introduction, I was hoping to see some showdown, but I realized you were able to carve it in such a way that you were just giving hope.
Yeah,
throughout.
because that's the goal of it. The goal is so I was brutally honest about things that I wanted to share. This is what happened. This is it. This really is. I was angry at God. I was angry at my friends. That's the reality.
I was also angry at the first place you began working in Kumasi. I read that story and I was like, wow, how can they treat you like that? It was just so, it was so surreal, because you were alone at that time.
I was in Takwa. One of my darkest, so it's not that, it wasn't challenging.
Going to the extent of having to use a colleague's health insurance card, that meant you were really in a tight.
I'm telling you, I was in the tight, in 5 years.
But you don't look like it. You don't look like.
It's called grace. We don't look like what we've been through. If we're going to look like what we've been through.
You are so bubbly, you are so full of life. And reading the story and seeing who you are now, it's almost like a movie.
Yeah. A lot of people have told me before, especially my very close circle. They'll be like, Charlie, you're okay, can be TV drama series. And I'm like, yeah. I'm not a human being with two heads. I'm just a person that has been so deeply wronged, but also been greatly forgiven. I'm someone who's also wronged people. I'm sure very much that I've hurt people along the way. And I'm sure that I've hurt God as well. And while I was pissed off at him for a long time, I still recognize, one of the things that I like to do, I'm a very logical person. My brain works in black and white. So I'm always trying to make sense of things. And I see the way that people relate with other people. When people are in love, it's not just romantic love, like parental love, any kind of love. They give room. See, you do something wrong. It doesn't spoil anything. It's okay. Let's keep moving on. You err. They're like, oh, it's okay. Let's go. You fight. You come back. You continue. So I kept asking myself. So if every human beings can love this way, then God loves bigger than us. Just because I can't see him, I can't feel him. He's not tangible now. It feels like, oh, that's such an abstract love, but it's not. Because people who are mere mortals and have a limit to what they'll take can love so deeply, so holy, so all-encompassing. I recognize that then I am deeply loved and I've been deeply graced.
In terms of the wrongs, it seems you've been in that space where family life wasn't that great, and how are you able to cope now, knowing that you've been able to recognize these things over the years? Some people actually go through it and they're not able to talk about it, they're not able to come out of it. How are you able to forgive? Because you mentioned
I had help.
Wrongs and
I had help. I had professional help.
Professional help.
So I had a counselor that helped me deal with some of that. And that was very recently. Very recent, because I didn't even know I needed help. But I had help.
How important was that? Because if it was recently, then it means that during the time you're writing the book, you probably hadn't fully recovered.
Yeah, I still have it. Not even during the time. I still have it. I still have things that crop up. Because it's trauma. Trauma is not going to go away because you met with a counselor for a few sessions. Do you understand? But what the beautiful thing about healing is that once you're healing from what you've been through, it's giving you a perspective to know how to move forward going forward. So you're not going to put yourself through that same trauma going forward, but you're still dealing with that past trauma. So I am still dealing with that past trauma because sometimes I feel like I'm not wanted. I feel like people only look for me when they need me to do something.
Maybe because you're bubbly, you're full of life,
Yeah.
you have that strong...
Exactly, because that's all I've had to do to feel accepted, even in my family. I've had to work. I've had to work. I raised 3 babies as a child myself. I've had to work my entire life. Peter, you have no idea what that does to a person, especially a child, to think that I have to do something to earn love. Do you get it? And it's not just love from outside people, your own family. I grew up in a family home, and not one day passed did any member of that family, not my mother's siblings, not my grandparent, my grandmother, none of them. It was a maternal side of the family. Very rarely, in fact, I don't remember it ever happening that someone woke up one day and said, "Hello, my dear, how are you?" Nobody asked me how I was or how my younger siblings were, not for a day. Right? So, and that's the most basic thing. It's the least you can do. It doesn't cost you a dime to check in on somebody. So right now, as an adult, I like doing that a lot. And people are like, "Hey, how are you? How are you doing?" Because you don't know the difference that makes. Because sometimes somebody's only sign is, let somebody ask me how I am and I will not kill myself.
Okay.
That's it. People are going through it. So sometimes just approaching like, how are you? And sometimes when I call my friends, I'm like, how are you? And I'm not asking about them, I'm fine kind of how are you? And then they will like, Z, okay, I need to see you.
Okay.
Because they're going through stuff. Nobody's going to tell you voluntarily because it's hard for them to talk about it. And I know it's hard for me to talk about my issues. It's so hard. Like, and you get to work with perceptive people. People who really care about you will notice. Like, you have bags under your eyes. I'm like, oh, yeah, right. I'm not sleeping very well. Yeah, that's fine. I'm okay. And then later, the person will come and say, what's going on?
At the same time, this craving for acceptance, affection, and a normal life. In lesson 2 of the 30 lessons you have, you said your parents did the best they could with what they were given. And you actually went on to say that you do not blame them for whatever happened to you because life also happened to them. So how then are you able to still hold them accountable to some extent of the experiences you have? If in lesson 2 you are saying that they did the best with what they had, how are you now, based on this, treating them, knowing that they did the best that they could?
I hold them in honor now. He said, I'm 30 years old. My parents are done with their job with me. They were done at age 16 actually. Because that's what Ghana law says at age 16. We can marry you off, but you can only vote at 18. So it's crazy. Technically, they were done with me at age 18, let's say.
Yeah.
They were done with their parenting job, right? But despite everything that happened, my mom was out there. She could have left. Do you understand? People leave their families. My dad was ill. His family came to get him. He didn't go. They could have left. Even able-bodied people are leaving their families, but they didn't. I always had a roof over my head. You know, sometimes it's perspective. Shift it a little. We have children that are street children. I was never a street child. Every single time, it might not be the best of roofs, but I didn't have to worry when rain came where I'll put my head on. I didn't have to worry about the predator because the predator was in the house. But at least it reduced the number of times that people would come and prey on me because my eyes were opening up. So when you look at it carefully, they did their best with what they have. It doesn't mean that I wasn't hurt. It doesn't mean that I wasn't angry. We've had different conversations. When we start having conversations around these things, it gets mad crazy in my home. One of my older brothers will just go ballistic. It's like, Mom, you have no idea what some of your actions did to us. Do you understand? Don't justify it. But they haven't gone through that kind of feeling. You know, we live in a culture that doesn't recognize help, mentally, emotional help. You know, you won't, she's fine. For her, she feels she's fine. She's done everything. I can't change that. I don't want to focus on what I can't change. I can change me. I can't change what her position is. I can't change. We were 6 siblings, 7 siblings going through this, but we all experienced it differently. Everybody experienced it differently. So that is why that was so important to carry, because there are people who are not living their lives now because they're still blaming, and they're 40-year-old sitting their asses somewhere and saying, my parent didn't do this for me, ABC didn't do it for me, that's why I'm here. And I just want to help them reconsider that perspective. You might have missed out on a lot of things, but what are you doing about your now? Your now is your responsibility. It can't be my parents' responsibility. When they failed at what they did at their responsibility when they should, it got me scars or wounds that I'm still healing from. And I'm doing the work to heal from it. But it is no longer their responsibilities. So I want to honor them with what they did. They did the best they could. I was in school. As a child, my father would use his one leg and his walking stick, and come to my school to negotiate fees. Able-bodied men didn't do that. You get it? So, yes, there was the trauma, there was the way, but there was also a lot of good. Doesn't mean that we never laughed I never laughed as a child. There were moments of laughter and happiness and joy, even though they were fleeting and not and were far in between. They were still there. So for me, my perspective in life is that I want to change the way I see things. I want to focus on all that went well, because what you focus on is what amplifies. So all my bubbliness and my energy and everything, because I'm focusing on the positive and the energy. So that is what amplifies in my life, and I attract only good things. You can't bring your nonsense into my sphere, because it doesn't have space in it. It's only good, positive energy things that come my way. Excellent, awesome things, people, experiences, those are the only things that I allow into my space now.
Great. You use the word, it is your responsibility. And in lesson 18, find you at all costs. When I was reading that place, I was just so energized, because when you're speaking, I have been through my own journey, and finding you is an important thing. It's like that moment where you feel on top of the world, you feel liberated.
Yeah.
That weight that is on you, it's like there has been that key that has unleashed a new energy in you. And when I was reading it, I was just so excited. You said, then I became an adult and still did not get any piercings because I was concerned about what society would say about me, my family, especially my parents, church, all of them. But I really just wanted to be free to do me, be me and feel me. I did not know how, but I was eager to find out. That experience, how did you get the courage to do you at that point? Because you were going through a lot, and was it because of the things that you were facing, or you just realized that you needed to unleash something? How was that coming out for you?
Well, I don't think it was I think it was a process. You know, it was a journey. So sometimes I can't exactly pinpoint at what point, but because I had given myself to that journey, all of it, you know, I've served, I've paid my dues to my family, I've served in terms of service. One of the things I told myself, I won't wash, I won't cook. I've done enough of that in my lifetime. I need a washing machine or somebody to help me. I used to wash until my hands were sore. For many years, I had dark patches here because my hands get sore. Goodness, I grew up in the Zongo. The kids will play. Do you know what that looks like on clothes? So I feel like I have been my dues. I needed to show myself grace, because a lot of the time we're expecting other people to show us grace, and we are not even showing ourselves that grace. So it was like, why am I expecting people to give me what I'm not even giving myself?
Mm-hmm.
That was like, a sort of eureka moment. Like, if I want to be taken, you know, be acknowledged as me, I have to start doing me. Even if it means I have to fight. And one thing I've been doing my life is fighting. So I knew how to fight, and you don't want to fight me, because I will win. And getting piercings were not necessarily like rebellious, but it was such a symbolic thing for me to know that this is something I want. All my life I've been doing what everybody wants. I've been serving everybody and everything but me. So for once, I will serve me. And that was the one thing I could immediately, like, it was a tangible small thing that I knew I could do to say I did something for me. You know, but it could cut across many things. I'm such an adventurer, so I like to get up and just travel. But for a long time I couldn't. I'm like, you know what? I'm gonna travel. You know, so serve me. It's a hard thing. It's not easy. I'm still struggling with it, because my mind, you know, my orientation is serving other people. So sometimes there's that guilty, like, you're doing something wrong, and I have to shut that voice up. Like, shut the hell up. I am serving me, and it's okay. Because if I don't know how to serve me, how do I think I can serve somebody else?
Amazing. When I finished the book, I thought it shouldn't have ended. I thought that there should have been some new happily ever after. And I think you did that in the epilogue. You did that in the epilogue where you're talking about Sugar King, you're talking about Lady Bless and the people who helped you along the way and how your future is going to be. So if someone wants to get a copy of Concentric Circles, where does the person go?
Before I go on to that, it hasn't ended because the story is still being written.
Okay.
And Concentric Circles is going to be a series, so there will be different subtopics. This is 30 Rich Life Lessons. The next one, I've had different thoughts coming to me, but I think it's going to focus more on the people that were instrumental. You know, I mentioned a few, but I'm going to highlight certain experiences and how people came in, because one of the biggest blessings of life is people. You meet people and they change your life positively or negatively. We underestimate it, but it's people that make. And those who crown kings do not look like kingmakers. A lot of the time. Those who crown kings don't look like kingmakers. You can in our history and culture, the kingmakers were people you don't see on the regular. And when they come out, they look so decrepit.
Yeah.
But they are the people that crown kings, and if they don't crown you king, you will never be king. And that's something. You see, we have such a rich culture, but we want to focus on the abusive part of it. But there's a beautiful aspect of it, and that's the learning. So people are important, and one of the things that is a forefront of me is gratitude. Everybody that has held my hand somehow, I have to give them their thanks, because it's important. I can't do much for them, but acknowledging that you did this and this is how it changed something for me, it's key. So the next in the series would be something along that line. I still haven't figured it out, but it will come when it comes, because I usually do this by inspiration. So if you want a copy, you can go to Book Nook. Yes, and they deliver worldwide. They deliver internationally and locally. So you can get hard copy from Book Nook, and you can also get a soft copy on Amazon. There's an e-version on Amazon. If you type in Concentric Circles, 30 Rich Life Lessons, this is the cover. It's everywhere. Elizabeth Zionita Ofori, you will be able to get a copy for yourself, whether it's hardcover or
Awesome. So now let's dive into your writing and reading life. Who are your favorite artists?
Ooh, that's a big one. I don't have favorites. I have a list of people that I like. Dan Brown.
Okay.
I like Sidney Sheldon. I read all kinds of genres, so it doesn't matter. I love romance. I'm such a romantic, so I love Daniel Steele.
Memories.
But lately, I have really, in the last few years, about 4 or 5 years, I've really fallen in love with memoirs.
Okay.
And autobiographies.
Okay.
So one of the most beautiful memoir that I've read for me would be Tyra Banks' story, Kevin Hart, Trevor Noah.
Nelson.
So memoirs are also a big part of my reading, and I think books were my escape. They always were. So I always wanted an e-reader now, because I can't carry books anymore. And e-reader mimics phone. You know, sometimes when you're changing a habit, you want to give it. You don't want to do a drastic change. So I want to still tap and screen, because I like hardcovers. I'm the kind of person that buy books randomly. Other people might buy shoes or outfit. I'm the person who's in traffic and like, oh, which book? I like this book, and I just buy it because it's pretty and I'll read it later, or you know. So that is it for me, but I read all types, because all of them hold their own. They do different things for me, you know. The fantasy one, I love the Nancy Drew series growing up. Like I love Nancy Drew, the Mysterious Five. Lord Jesus, beautiful.
Do you think you are more into memoirs and autobiographies, as you're saying now, but do you think you would ever consider fiction?
I might, because I have such a very interesting imagination, and it's a challenge. Like, I'm the kind of person that sometimes I'm so bored to death, and I'm like, what can I do? And I just start doing something crazy. So I don't say no to anything because you never know. And that's why I don't judge anything. You never know what you do in that particular position. So I think I might. Let's see.
Do you believe in writer's block? And for those who don't know what writer's block is, it's that moment where a writer is phased out, is blanked out, ideas are not coming in, or if the ideas are dead, you don't even know how you are going to pen them. Have you ever experienced that?
I have. I don't like writing necessarily, like writing, pen and paper writing is not something I enjoy.
You type?
Maybe, but I do. The thing about me is I do things because they need to be done.
Okay.
You know, if you leave me alone and give me all I need, I won't lift a finger. So I'm just saying that sometimes the person we are, a part of us is also because of the things we have to do. And it's not necessarily who we are. Because I want to lay in bed and be taken care of, you know, like, oh Jesus, I just like that. So I think writer's block is a real thing. And it's an interesting name for it, but I think whatever you do, writing is such a deeply spiritual exercise. That's what I want to call it. No matter what you write, fiction, real life stories, whatever, it's spiritual because people are first spiritual. No matter what you're writing, it comes from a place you. For me, I believe that you're a spirit who has a soul. The soul is how your body interacts with this earth because the body is just a container. That's why you die, you get wasted. So writing is something that comes from your soul and that mixture of your heart and soul, you know. So there's a point there that you're tapped out because you're in a certain phase where you need to maybe lay low, hibernate, take care of something. So writer's block is a real thing and honor it. I think it's not something we should be afraid of. I think we should honor it. Because when you honor such things, you go through whatever it is that aspect of the journey wants you to do, then you are back even better to be able to serve whatever it is you need to serve. Yeah.
Okay. Now, how did you celebrate your first book? When you finished your first book, how did you celebrate that win? What did you do to celebrate? The moment you finished the last line of the last chapter, how did you celebrate?
No.
Didn't celebrate.
I think the writing of the book was a very, I don't have the words to describe it, but I remember one time what Sugar King described it as, like, you are not here. He drew my attention to that anytime I said to write, when I was writing this book, I was gone. It was like I was not in the room.
Oh, okay.
Yeah. And I didn't know, I'm like, how? I was like, no, you're there. But anything going on, you never knew. You are transported to another world until you're done.
How are you feeling when you finished?
When I finished, I was like, this is it. I was just calm. Like, it was I don't want to call it blank. It was a grounded feeling. You know, I was like, this is ready to go. But I knew I had to go through back and forth. There were additions and taken out, but yeah, the core of it, that was how I didn't do anything to celebrate because I didn't think it was a win-win yet until it's gotten to the people that really needs to read it.
Okay, so let's wrap up with some interesting questions. What do you enjoy most about writing?
I think what I enjoy most is the ability to get transported to somewhere else and either you're reliving a situation or reliving what's in your mind, you know. It's so nice. Like, as you're writing and seeing the story develop, you can feel it, you can experience it. I think that's what I like about writing, not the act of writing itself, because that's such a tedious thing to do.
So what was the most difficult part about writing? Was it to you?
This typing itself. I think that was the most difficult thing to do, yeah. One of the things I detested was edits. When it goes to my copy editing, it's like, oh dude, I'm like, you know, I'll just go and sit down and redo it. And then it goes and then all my editors will look at it, cancel, put this in. Oh my God. And then I go to and then I have to go and do. I think that was what I hated the most.
Are you currently reading any book?
Oh, a number of books. Asamoah's memoir, Ajit Tainan's memoir. Yes, and then I have been trying to read this book by. I'm trying to get a title to me. It's a very common book. I can't remember the title now. But yeah, right now I'm reading those two memoirs because it's pretty fascinating.
Okay. And what is the most valuable piece of advice you've ever received about writing?
I think it would be I don't think it was an advice, but it was more like an education.
Okay.
What qualifies for a book?
Mm.
You know, people.
Can you share that with us? I'm interested. I'm interested.
Not everything qualifies for, but you know, people do pamphlets, those tiny books. Don't have anything like that, and they call it a book.
Okay.
But books supposed to have certain number of pages and words, minimal to call a book.
And what was that?
I can't remember off the top of my head, but I would lead you to Cindy Trim.
Okay.
Cindy Trim and Bishop T.D. Jakes did a master class.
Okay.
So that was one of the things. And Sugarcane was the one who was like, you've got to see, he would just send me resources like,
Yeah, you can
he would send me resources. He's such a good person in finding resources. So I learned a lot of them. I'm like, And I think that also did influence all the information that because I wasn't going to give it, but I realized that no, this is a book. And the first time I showed it to one of my mentors, he said, you've actually written a book because this is what qualifies for a book. So I think that is the education that really was pivotal for me as I started this journey.
Apart from today, when was the last time you had to market your book?
Maybe earlier this week. I didn't necessarily market it. So one thing I want to do with the book is to get it to schools.
Okay.
And so I'm looking for sponsors, people that are going to buy copies of it. And then as we gather, some people can buy bulk copies, organizations. MTN did one with their bright scholars. They go buy 120 copies for their bright scholars. I am going to go to the Upper West region to see a foundation that takes care of girls and women in that area. I want help getting copies of the book to them. That's how I'm focusing my marketing on. So it's not marketing, I'm terrible at selling. But people always say, you're such a good speaker, you should be able to sell anything. I'm like, I can't sell this piece of paper. I don't know, it just doesn't work. But I can tell when I'm passionate about something. I think that's it. The thing is, I have to believe in what I'm doing to actually put. So that's how, and I've actually put the book out and marketed it, but I haven't done any active. It's been a struggle for me, and I'm open to help, really. But I really want to get it to young people across Africa because it's a story that they would relate to. Or young people anywhere can relate to it. But one thing that one of my readers sent to me was like, you know what? I've read a lot of memoirs by young people, and while some of it is deep, you can resonate because there are certain experiences that are shared. This from cover to cover is something that I could relate to. Thank you.
How do you feel about book reviews? The good ones. Let's start with the good ones. How do you relate with book reviews?
For me, reviews are a check for me. So far all the reviews are reviews that it helps me check whether it's getting the needed. Because when I was writing, I told you why I'm putting it out. So if it's giving people that hope, check. Let's keep doing it. If the reviews is doing the opposite, I'm like, we have to go back to the drawing board. What are we not doing right?
Peter's Box. Life is for the living.